Friday on the Patrick Johnson Show. Doug Martin joining us. Coach Martin back on the program. We've twisted his arm. We've conned him. We've got him away from the water long enough to talk some ball. Coach, how are you?
I'm good, Patrick. How you doing?
Doing well. I want to hear about the tailgating at Wake Forest. Now, it was at Wake Forest.
It did.
It was at Wake Forest, but I mean, still, it was a tailgate. I think that was a good one to sort of break you in for the rest of the season. So how did all of it go?
Yeah, I think that's kind of like preparing for the season. You play the FCS game first, and then you move up to like an East Carolina tailgate. But it went good. The people there were just outstanding. We had a lot of fun. Probably a little bit more of a wine and cheese crowd than you get at East Carolina. You get the true football tailgate, but it was fun. Wake Forest played really well, and it was a good game. You enjoyed watching it, and got to see my son, the grandkids. So it was all good.
What was your favorite, sort of part of the tailgate from a food perspective or maybe a drink perspective? I mean, because that's, part of the fun.
You know what? The food was phenomenal, the burgers and stuff we had, but I think it was just the being at a college football game and not having a migraine headache because you got to call plays for the next 3 hours, being able to, and then walking away from the game without a headache. That was even better.
Yeah. Well, the tailgaters usually have a headache the next day. That's usually
not from the game, right?
So Doug Martin is with us here. It was interesting. I got a text from you after the ECU state game, and a lot of what you said before kind of came to fruition. Red zone and the points and all of that. So let's just let's get into that one before we talk a little about ECU and ODU. What did you think of the narrow loss?
Yeah,
I tell you what, college kickers. I don't think there's a tougher deal than those poor college kickers, is there?
There's not. And the way practices have changed where you don't get many live practices, that really impacts your special teams too, because you're not getting a lot of live special team work. And my heart just went out to that young man, but he'll make a lot down the stretch here. But, I thought the things we did talk about were key. The red zone in particular. We said ECU's defense had to play great red zone defense and holding the field goals. Well, they did even better. They took the ball away from them on the 1 yard line with a fumble and held them on downs, which is just like having another turnover. So twice NC State got no points, which was huge. And I think East Carolina, we talked about, they needed some short fields, to help them get to the red zone and score. And they really didn't get that, Patrick, until the end of the game. They've had poor field position the whole game. It seemed like they backed up. And, I've been in those type of games. It's really hard to call plays when you're backed up in your own end zone. You got to go 80, 90 yards. That's tough. But, the last 2 drives of the game, they got short fields, and both of them, one of them produced a touchdown, and one of them, they had the field goal that unfortunately they missed. But I thought those were the biggest things. And, Coach Logan told me when I took over as being the coordinator at East Carolina, he told me, he said, you're not going to win many games with play calling, but you can lose one in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And that is absolutely true. And that's what keeps offensive coordinators up at night. And I'm going to tell you what, NC State, they almost lost that game because of that. I thought down the goal line, particularly the second time, being that hard-headed and trying to run the ball in 3-4 plays, that just didn't have much creativity there. And then to me, the last drive where they had the 1-point lead and 3 minutes left in the game, they needed to run the clock out. They played so conservative. And with that quarterback, you've got to call plays. You got to let that guy play and get some first downs and keep that ball and run it out. And they didn't do that. So I really thought, they kind of handled those situations poorly. And I thought East Carolina played their hearts out.
Pirates, by the way, 2 for 2 in the red zone. State was 1 for 3, just to kind of accentuate the point that Coach Martin was making. Doug Martin with us here on the Patrick Johnson Show. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. What did you see that you liked from Holt Naylors?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, just physically, he is one of the toughest kids around. He banged his shoulder up there a little bit and kept running the ball when he needed to there at the end of the game, had the run that set him up for the field goal. He just showed a lot of heart. And like I say, I know he was banged up. Thought he handled the pressures really well that NC State brought. Again, being backed up like they were, I think it limited how many shots he was able to take and what they were able to do offensively. But that was a good start for him. We talked about him throwing more touchdown passes this year. And he threw 2 in that game, I believe, that, was a good start, and he needs to just keep building on that.
What did you notice on the interceptions?
You know what you talking about for Holton?
Yeah, for Ahlers.
Yeah, you know, some of those are just going to happen. You know, one of them was a fade ball, you know, where it's a 50-50 deal, and you know that just happens. You don't know what he was seeing or what, you know, if a receiver ran the wrong route or maybe made
Right.
the wrong adjustment, those type of things. So without knowing any of that, I'd hate to judge anything on that. But neither one of those interceptions he had hurt them. You know, NC State didn't get points off either one of those.
We've got Coach Doug Martin with us, ECU offensive coordinator under Steve Logan, and then coached New Mexico State and Kent State, and is now living the good life at the Crystal Coast, fishing, and just talking to me about football when I twist his arm and we get him to come on the radio with us here. Hey, Devin Leary, obviously ACC preseason player of the year. What'd you think of Devin Leary? What stood out? What'd you like about Devin Leary for State?
Well, you can obviously see he's got physical talent. I mean, he's got a strong arm and all those type of things, but man, he just looked like he was off his game all day. And a lot of that had to do with East Carolina. You know, they were able to get pressure. They were able to get in his face a little bit, you know, and again, I just felt like North Carolina State was so conservative in the game plan that they really didn't give him an opportunity to open things up and do maybe what he's capable of doing. It was really kind of a hard game to watch from that standpoint of getting their beat on how good he can really be. But that certainly was not the start that he'd like. I just felt like, you know, he didn't get off to a good start, and then his confidence kind of waned. And, you know, sometimes quarterbacks just are not seeing the field very well for whatever reason. And when that happens, you got to give them some easy throws to get them back in tempo, maybe getting into empty set and give them some more options. And I just never saw NC State doing any type of that stuff. And just felt like he was really off balance all day.
So you mentioned State gets it down, and there were a couple of those goal line stands for the Pirates, but you know, one, especially the one late, just logically makes sense to me. Go ahead and kick it, and you're up 10 at that point. Florida State, kind of the same thing happened in the game with LSU, and then it takes an extra point being missed for the Noles to win. Is that sort of the new thing now in college football, that because ECU went for it on fourth down a lot last year, that I mean, what are coaches maybe looking at there? And I know some of it is, especially these goal line situations.
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to make a statement or a point. I mean, heck, ECU lost a game at NC State like that several years ago, trying to, instead of kicking it, go for it on fourth down in a goal situation, and we're stuffed. But are they looking, do the numbers tell you fourth down can be a productive down? I mean, just take us into the coaching side of that, generally speaking.
Yeah, I think, you know, if I would have kicked the field goal there to make it a 2-score game, I just felt like that would have been the thing to do. I think maybe their ego got a hold of them there, and, you know, just the moment and those type of things. Sometimes it's a feel. Sometimes as a coach, you just have a really good feel for how your offense is doing. You're confident you can get it in. And maybe you've just got a really good series of goal line plays that you really like. But that didn't seem to be the case for NC State. So I really thought that was a mistake, not kicking the field goal, number one. And then number two, the play selection. I just, you know, no play action pass, none of that type of stuff, you know, down there that could be effective. And even at the end of the game, like we were talking about, where they had the ball with the 1-point lead, that is an optimum place for play action pass, because East Carolina's got to sell out to stop the run at that point.
Yeah.
First down there is made for a little naked or boot, something like that, just to get you going and get a good gain on first down so you can get the downs going. And, you know, they didn't have any of that. So, yeah, kind of suspect on those areas.
We've got Doug Martin on the horn with us here for this Football Friday edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. So Old Dominion comes in. ODU's won 6 last year, won 7 in a row since, dating back to last season. And you know, you look at what they have done, it's kind of interesting. They are a program that went from, I think, 1 win to not playing in the COVID year to a bowl game. I don't think anything like that's ever been done before. So they've got a young coaching staff, got a great receiver, Dre Bly's kids on the roster. They got a huge tight end, and they're coming off a win against Virginia Tech. And you could argue how good Virginia Tech is or isn't, what kind of shape their program is in. But I get the Old Dominion passion with that win. I mean, that's a big win for the Old Dominion program over Virginia Tech.
It is, even if Virginia Tech's not the old Virginia Tech, that's still a power conference win. And that was a good win for them. I thought, you know, they're interesting. in the way they play defense. They are very much a pressure-oriented defense, feast or famine. And it's always my experience when you play those teams, one or two things, you're either going to make them look really bad or they're going to make you struggle during the day. Old Dominion does a great job of disguise with their pressures. It's the old sucker punch thing. They'll make you look over here, and then the blitz comes from the other side. So I think that's what, East Carolina's got to be really adapted to. And I think they got to do a nice job with their snap count. East Carolina does. They need to have some good first down plays, get it snapped before they can get that blitz set up, or do the look package. You go through the snap count and look to the sideline, let them give you a call to beat the blitz. But that's going to go on all day because they're going to pressure all day long. That's kind of who they are. I don't think ODU is good enough throwing the ball to beat East Carolina. I think East Carolina's got a phenomenal defense, and I think if they can make them play left-handed and make them throw the ball, they'll struggle against ECU.
We've since learned that, and you're at the Wake game, your son's on staff there. We've since learned that Sam Hartman had a blood clot issue. He's now cleared to play. How much do you, and I'm not trying to put you to spot here if you know anything or not, but yeah, just from the sense of somebody coming back from something that serious, but he's obviously a productive and winning quarterback. Do you ease him back theoretically, or I mean, what would be the kind of your modus operandi if you had a quarterback that was of that ability that was coming back?
Yeah, I think it's how much practice time he's had will be the factor on that. And I'm not really sure exactly how much practice he's been in the last 2 weeks. I know he's been doing quite a few things waiting to get cleared. So if he's been getting a lot of practice time, I'd feel okay about putting him in the game at Vanderbilt. And but again, you're playing an SEC team. That's still not a optimum place to get the rust knocked off of him. So you better have the backup kid ready to play too. But I do think this bodes well for Wake Forest to get him back, and they've got them, and I think they have Liberty and then Clemson. So that Clemson game is conference game. That's the big one they've got to move up to. So this gives them time to get him ready.
And Liberty before that is no slouch. So I mean, that's
right.
that's interesting. Hey, it's been a week. We really haven't talked about this, but last week, the decision made to expand the college football playoff. I guess there's still a possibility it could happen as soon as 24, but 26 seems to be the time on that. Give me your thoughts on expanding the playoff, because the argument is, look what Georgia did to Oregon, the supposed number 11 team. Now that's a preseason poll, but just your thoughts on it.
Well, I agree with expanding the college football playoff, give more teams opportunity. I just hate the way they're doing it again. It's all set up for the power conference. Like I saw an article, they looked back to last year and what teams would have been in if this model would have been in play. Well, Louisiana Lafayette was 13-1 and were conference champions, and they would not get in. And, Utah was 10-3 and they would be in the college football playoff. That to me, if you're a conference champion, you should be in the playoff. I believe.
Yeah.
I just think that's rewarding a conference and rewarding kids, and that's the right thing to do. So I think that part of it's still suspect. And the big thing really, this was the answer to the SEC and the Big Ten expanding the way they did. That sent shockwaves through college football, and they were seeing those two conferences getting ready to monopolize, the championships and those type of things. And that's really, I think, the driving force of why this expansion happened so quickly right after that. So yeah, I'm glad they're going more teams. I just wish still there was an avenue for the group of 5 to get in there.
I've got later on tonight a game that Jay Sonalder and Jay's commentating on the ECU game for ESPN Plus. We talked to him earlier in the show, but we've got a game where 2 really good high school programs, Cardinal Gibbons out of Raleigh, Wake Forest, who's won state titles in recent years, are playing. And, when you talk to high school coaches for anticipation of those games or other programs that are, pretty good, but maybe more on the smallest side, and you ask them about really good players, they're saying, well, we don't see a whole lot of college scouts or coaches come by anymore. Like maybe you did at one time. So, with the way, and you wanted to talk a little bit about this, and I think it's something that parents and coaches even ought to be aware of. the transfer rule now in college football is gonna, I mean, you're gonna have to be pretty darn special to get recruited now, where maybe a guy might get a look, get into a program, and then you build him up, and by the time he's a third or fourth year guy, you see in the field for you. Those days may be gone for a while. I hope not for good, though.
There are definitely less opportunities for high school players now. And I think it's one of the underlying things of the transfer rule that they never considered when they put that rule in place, because so many teams are recruiting right out of the transfer portal. You need to have 25 scholarships to give if you've got a full load to give that year. And probably 8, 9 of them are coming out of the transfer portal for just about everybody now. Well, that's 8 or 9 high school players that didn't get scholarships now. And I think it's a really shame. Where are they going to go? Are they going to go to junior college to try to get opportunity? Do they go Division II, FCS, whatever it is?
Yeah.
But it's a shame that that's gone that way. I really believe, because I think it's hurting high school football. High school football was the great feeder for college football, and kind of losing that. And I think it's a shame.
Hey, Coach, good to talk to you. Really appreciate it. And we may see you tomorrow, maybe.
I hope so. Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there, and no telling who else, but I'm going to be there to tailgate with the Pirates and have some fun doing that.
All right. Now, look, this is not a Wake Forest tailgate. I just want you to know.
You got to tape your ankles for this one, right? Get ready to go.
Exactly. Hey, Coach Martin, thanks a lot.
All right, Patrick. Thank you.